We must constantly look at things in a different way.
The Healthcare Education Transformation Podcast was created by two physical therapists out of the desire to learn more about the different educational roles in physical therapy and healthcare, and how healthcare education works by talking with educational leaders and people with different perspectives within physical therapy and across interdisciplinary lines on how education can be improved to disrupt the status quo of healthcare education. This is our journey, and thanks for listening. Are you a third-year physical therapy student that excels on tests when you have study guides, checklists, and deadlines? With all of the information available about how to prepare for the NPTE, it's easy to get disorganized and not feel prepared going into the big day. NPTE Prep Success is an online course that provides PT students easy-to-use study guides and step-by-step guidance through the NPTE preparation. To learn more, visit kylericeprep.com. Hey everybody, this is Brandon, and thanks for listening to the Healthcare Education Transformation Podcast. Now, this episode was recorded live at Smart Success PT Live 2018 at the Wyndham Grand in Clearwater Beach, Florida, as F. Scott and I got to chat with the one and only Greg Todd again on the show. Now, for those of you who have not heard of Greg, he is an incredible physical therapist and leader, along with being the co-owner of Renewal Rehab, the founder of Physical Therapy Builder, and the organizer of Smart Success PT Live. Now, for this episode, we did have a little background noise that we were unable to completely edit out, so we apologize for the inconvenience. Now, without further ado, we now present our chat with Greg Todd.
So, Greg, thanks for coming back on the podcast. It's always a pleasure. The second time around, we're going to take a little bit different approach, and let's talk leadership. Leadership is generally thought of as a quality you're born with, but you kind of strike us as the guy who thinks leaders can be built. Can you attest to that statement? Tell us a little bit.
I truly believe that leaders can be built. I think it comes from service. At the end of the day, people want to work with people that are serving them and that inspire them, and that really is what a leader is. And you really can't inspire people until you serve them first. So it's got to be service and then inspiration, and inspiration then to me leads to leadership.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think seeing just clearly what you've been able to achieve through SSPT, and not even just that, but all the other realms that you're on, what are some strategies and techniques besides what you've kind of already mentioned, perhaps to someone else, whether that be in an educational program or anything for that matter? What are some strategies that you would use to kind of even help craft leaders in the realm of PT?
Okay, this answer might not be the typical answer, but customer service, personal development. You know, like in order to lead, you have to, you're gonna have to take the back seat. I'll give you a perfect example. So last night, I was doing an informal mentorship session with about 70 people, right? And somebody saw that I was there, and I was there for like 3.5 hours, and they went over and got me a glass of water, right? Mm-hmm. They got me a glass of water, which is awesome. But I looked to my right, and I saw somebody that didn't have water, so I gave it to them. Mm-hmm. And like that's really what you have to do. Like that's the type of stuff that you have to do in order to lead. You have to be a servant. And if you aren't, I'm not saying you can't lead, but I just don't think it'll be long lasting.
That's profound.
So it's not leading from the front; it's leading next to your crew,
right,
and bringing them along with you.
Yeah, and yes, I mean that's exactly what it is, and you have to be okay. Like right now, there are next year at this event. By the way, we're doing this at Smart Success PT Live, ssptlive.com. Okay, but next year at this event, I'll be, I guess, the forefront name. But people are going to continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and I have to step away, and I have to be okay with that. I have to be okay with knowing that, like, I don't need to be the front and center guy. That there's going to be students next year that are going to come here and are going to be more excited to see other people than me. And that's okay. Yeah. You know, like even this year, I had to bring speakers that I knew that my audience could be served by. And I knew that those speakers might be better than me. And I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah. What's the phrase? A leader doesn't create followers, they create more leaders.
That's how I know this thing is working.
Mm-hmm.
So Greg, I know you don't view failure as a loss, but more of an opportunity and a learning experience. But what do you do with a leader who may be working hard and grinding, but still finding failure time and time again?
Well, you're going to find failure time and time again. That's part of leading. That's part of innovating. That's part of growing something. Like that's what happens with it. You're going to have failures, lost leaders, you can call it, whatever, but it's not going to go perfect. My definition, F. Scott, my definition of grind and other people's definition of grind might be totally different. I think most people think that if they push hard at something for a couple months, they are grinding and it's not working. That is a total crock of crap to me. It took me a long time to even get a solid reputation as a leader in my physical therapy company. I had to prove it time and time again, not just in the clinic, but outside of the clinic, behind the scenes. When no one else was watching, the phone calls with employees and people that you invest all this time in, and then they leave, and this one comes and they leave. Like, you have to do so much work behind the scenes, and because of that, it's trained me to lead and to help people, expecting absolutely nothing in return. So the truth is, my grind might be different than somebody else's grind, right? Because you're grinding and failing. Well, tell me what's the definition of grind to you? 6 months? I mean, that's a thing. It's like that's a big thing. If you're going to be a true leader, you have to be willing to stand up for whatever it is that you believe in, put your head down and get to work, and not look for the fruit. Just understand that you actually did plant the seeds and you did put down the soil and you're watering it. And I know it's going to happen at some point, but I'm not really worried about it.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And, and kind of going with that, I know as we're all continuously learning and trying to improve the best that we can, of course, leaders always are striving to be better in general. What are some additional, perhaps, whether that be resources from anything that you have found, whether that from be books, podcasts, whatever the case may be, that has really been helpful and influential with helping you kind of develop your leadership skill set?
I mean, I think, here, I'll give you one book. EntreLeadership by Dave Ramsey was probably one of the better books that I've read that helped me with leadership in a sense of like how to do certain things in my business. So if there was one book that sticks out to me, I would say that. But truthfully, I like to, when it comes to leadership, I like to watch and view people. So I typically would look at a company that has a great culture and see if there's a biography or autobiography on the person that headed that, and that's typically like at least how I look for it with regards to a resource or whatnot. But really just mentors, people that you respect how they did something, and you look at their offspring, you know what I mean, like their career, their business offspring, and you're like, wow, and then I'm just like, let me just watch them. Success leaves clues.
So what are some ways that leaders can still make an impact if they're fighting an uphill battle in, say, like a large conglomeration or a corporation or an institution such as academia?
I think there's certain times where there's certain restrictions that are in play that make it a little bit more difficult, but somebody has to change it. I mean, if you're gonna look, there's got to be someone that is the trendsetter, and a lot of times the trendsetter is the leader. Ends up being the leader. So if we know that right now in academia, maybe it's not as it's not as much an environment to create leaders. I think the first thing we have to do is we have to change the environment. So it's going to take people to change the environment. And it takes trendsetters. It takes innovators. It takes the misfits to change the environment first, right? So that's huge.
Yeah. So, Greg, we certainly respect your time and all that you've done, of course, for everything, of course. And, and we remember last time that when you were on the show, actually, I think you were our 4th episode.
You want to know something? I remember exactly when it was. Yeah. Here, let me tell you guys real quick. So that was right after SSPT Live last year. Yeah. I know I got to tell you guys, so I hope this messes up your podcast. But I'll tell you this. So it was a day after I finished on the additional 2 days of SSPT Live, and I was supposed to have the schedule blocked. And I had one thing on a schedule. I was in my condo, my townhouse, and I was like done, like just emotionally, physically, everything spent. And I was like, wait a minute. Oh, I promise. And I was like, I'm not canceling it. And if you go back and you listen to that podcast, you'll see that my voice was gone, like how it is right now. You go back and listen to it. And I'm so glad that I did it. Like, I still remember it. So anyways, sorry.
We certainly appreciate that for sure. It was one of the more impactful episodes early on for our listeners. I know that.
So we usually ask this question at the end of every single episode, and the question, of course, for our audience is, if you could change one aspect of healthcare education, what aspect would you change and how? And remembering, of course, you wanted to have it, you really lobbied for better evaluation delivery.
Right.
Would you like to add another aspect on top of that?
Marketing, yeah. I mean, absolutely, positively, no doubt. So let me tell you where I'm going with that, because I lobbied last time for a better eval, which is better customer service, really, patient service. Well, I think that if in traditional healthcare, or in traditional education, I should say, if we trained healthcare providers on marketing, there would be much more of a respect factor for it. And I think when you could respect how hard it is to acquire a patient, you actually treat them better. So I think marketing would actually help our customer service and our treatment levels.
There would be a congruency between the message we're trying to relay and the communication we're trying to get to the patient.
Right.
Which just brings it all full circle.
Exactly.
To giving a better patient experience.
Much better.
Better treatment, which leads to better outcomes, and it keeps perpetuating itself.
Yep.
Well, Greg, thank you so much for your time. Where can people find you online and on social media if they want to catch up and follow up with you?
GregToddTV.com is my website. Greg Todd PT on Instagram, YouTube. YouTube is probably my biggest following, and Facebook.com/The PT Builder. I'm everywhere.
Fact. Access to healthcare is one of the largest issues facing both providers and patients, as millions of people worldwide lack timely and affordable access to healthcare. Anywhere Healthcare, a telehealth platform, is a simple, low-cost option for providers and patients that eliminates the barriers to access to all kinds of healthcare. To find out more, check out anywhere.healthcare, which is available in our show notes. And if you use the code HET in all caps when you email to sign up, you'll save 25% off the total cost. Thank you for attending class today, and we hope that you learned something and gained value from the content.
If you'd like to schedule office hours with us, feel free to add us on Twitter at HET Podcast, on Instagram, HET Podcast, on Facebook, the Healthcare Education Transformation Podcast, and the homepage, healthcareeducationtransformationpodcast.com.
And for those of you following along in the syllabus, extra credit can be obtained by liking us, sharing us, and leaving a review.
Let's continue our journey up Mount Educational Success as lifelong learners.